I stepped into the courtroom and it was like walking into a meat freezer, cold stiff, and meant to keep things exactly as they are. Their eyes hit me like bugs against a windshield. Someone coughed, someone else laughed. He's wearing a suit, a voice behind me muttered. I kept my head up. My throat burned, but I didn't clear it. That would have felt like asking permission, Mr. Whitaker. The defense attorney leaned toward the judge's bench with a casual grin like he was ordering a second glass of wine. So this is your witness, he said, just loud enough for the room to hear. Didn't realize we were doing mock trials today. The judge didn't laugh, but he didn't say anything either. I didn't flinch. I walked to the front table, took my seat and adjusted my glasses. My hands were sweating. The folder in front of me felt heavier than it should have. Whitaker cleared his throat. Your Honor, he began with mock sincerity, I'd like to lodge a preliminary objection. I'm not entirely sure we can take this witness seriously in a felony case. He gestured toward me with 2 fingers, like I was a child holding crayons instead of court exhibits. Overruled, the judge said flatly. But his tone sounded more tired than firm. I didn't look up. Not yet. I focused on my notes. I needed to hold steady. I needed to own the silence. The bailiff, a thick-set man with a crooked nose, walked past me to hand something to the court clerk. He stopped for a second, looked at me sideways. Did you skip school to play lawyer today, kid? I didn't answer. He kept walking. You're nervous, the clerk whispered, sliding papers my way. First time in court. I'm not nervous, I said, low, and it's not my first time. She raised an eyebrow. Middle school mock trials don't count, sweetheart. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw ached. Whitaker stood again. Just so the record's clear, Your Honor, the prosecution is allowing, what, a high school intern to testify now. I looked up straight into his face. I'm not an intern, I said. He smirked. Oh, then what are you, an attorney? The room didn't gasp. Not exactly, but I heard the shift, the breathlessness of everyone recalibrating. Whitaker's grin widened like I was some novelty. Sure you are, son, and I'm the Pope. I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. Let's move on, the judge said, rubbing his temples. I could feel them all watching me, not because I had something to say, but because they didn't believe I had the right to say it. At recess, I stepped outside the courtroom and leaned against the wall. My knees felt like they'd been hollowed out. The bailiff came out too, unwrapping a protein bar. He glanced at me, then laughed under his breath. Hey Einstein, they let you play lawyer for real, huh? I didn't look at him. I didn't skip school, I said quietly. I graduated. He stopped chewing. You what? I graduated. Law school. Took the bar past 16 years old. He scoffed. No way. I turned to face him. Finally, I'm not here for your belief. I'm here for the truth. He walked off, still shaking his head like I'd told a magic trick wrong back inside. I stood behind the prosecution's table again, waiting for my turn. No one looked directly at me, just side glances and smirks, and the kind of silence that says, we already decided who you are. I stared down at my notes. My hand stopped shaking. My name was on every page of the case file. My name, my work, my research. They didn't believe me yet, but they will, and when they do, it won't be because I shouted. It'll be because I buried them with facts they didn't think I could hold. Let them laugh now. They won't be laughing much longer. State your credentials, Whitaker said, circling me like I was a cheap prop in a school play. I didn't blink. Jaden Lee, licensed attorney, passed the California bar. He tilted his head, smirked. Try again. I knew that tone. The one adults use when they think you've got your shoes on the wrong feet and peanut butter on your face. JD from UCLA School of Law, I said, class of 2023, graduated valedictorian at 16. He let out a loud laugh. Exaggerated a performance for the jury. Oh sure, and I'm the tooth fairy. Your Honor, are we really doing this? Judge Monroe looked bored already. Mr. Whitaker, no, seriously, Whitaker said, waving a hand. Are we now entertaining children who memorized courtroom lingo off YouTube? I felt the heat crawl up the back of my neck. Not from embarrassment, from restraint. The prosecutor finally spoke up, objection badgering. Whitaker raised both hands like he'd just been caught cheating at poker. Just asking who's claiming to represent a client in a felony case. That's not too much to ask, is it? I leaned forward. You can ask all you want. Facts won't change, he chuckled. But I saw something flicker, something small, a twitch in the corner of his mouth. You're just playing dress-up, son, he said, stepping closer. You think putting on a suit and memorizing a few lines makes you a lawyer? I didn't move. And you think being white and loud makes you right? He blinked. That moment, half a breath where everything froze. I felt it. You don't even sound like a lawyer, he muttered. That's not my voice you're hearing, I said. It's your fear echoing back at you. The courtroom fell quiet. Even the judge stopped fiddling with his pen. Whitaker opened his mouth, closed it. I'm not afraid of you, he finally said. No, I said softly. You're afraid of what I represent, which is what. His tone cracked. Just a bit. Proof that everything you think is safe, your title, your ego, your skin means nothing when the truth walks in, wearing it better. He looked at the judge like he needed rescuing. Your Honor, are we really going to let this this kid continue his monologue? No need, I said before the judge could answer. Let him dig. Every time he opened his mouth, he showed the jury exactly who he was. Every word he used to belittle me. Every smirk, that wasn't hurting me. It was building my case. He thought he was playing offense, but I was already closing. Let me guess, Whitaker said, voice laced with sarcasm. You watched a few law shows and thought, hey, I can do that too. No, I said. I watched my cousin get arrested for asking why he was being pulled over. I watched my neighbor's eviction notice get stamped before the ink on her paycheck dried. I watched people like you pretend the law was neutral when it never even looked at us. Silence again. The judge cleared his throat. Let's move on. But Whitaker wasn't laughing now, and I didn't need the judge's approval. I already had what I came for, the crack, the shift. He saw me now not as a child, as a threat. Mrs. Vega's hand shook as she adjusted the mic. I could hear the tremble in her breath from the table. He told my son to run, she said. Said the police would shoot if he didn't. Her voice cracked on shoot. I felt it hit my chest like a nail sinking in. Whitaker was already halfway out of his chair. Objection, hearsay, emotional conjecture, he snapped. This isn't a soap opera. I stood slowly. I didn't look at him yet, Your Honor. I said, would you prefer I play the security footage now or later? His scoff came fast. There is no footage. I finally turned to face him. You sure? He hesitated. I checked. There are no cameras in the alley, he said. Arms folded like that closed the case. There weren't, I replied. But the school library installed a new angle last month. Covers the side lot. Partial view. Enough. He blinked. Even if there is a video, he muttered. He was resisting. No, I said, pulling a stapled transcript from my folder. He was reading in the library. I placed it on the table like a quiet slap. The timestamp matches the arrest report, but he never left the building until the officer grabbed him. Murmurs started in the gallery low, rippling disbelief. Whitaker grabbed the report. Anyone could have doctored this. You're welcome to verify with the school, I said. He glared at me, lips curling. Don't lecture me, boy. There it was again. Boy, I didn't flinch. Then maybe someone else should, I said. Because clearly, justice scares you. His voice spiked. You arrogant little. Sit down, Mr. Whitaker, the judge cut in. I stayed standing. Mrs. Vega, I said, voice steady. What did your son tell you when he called from the station? She took a shaky breath. He said, he didn't know what he did wrong. Said the officer just told him to get on the ground. And did he? I asked. She nodded right away. I turned back to Whitaker. Anything you'd like to add? He looked ready to explode. This is a circus. No, I said. This is what accountability looks like. You're twisting things. Making him into a victim when I pressed. He shut his mouth, jaw clenched. You want us to believe a straight-A student reading in a library suddenly became a threat? His silence was loud. I'll ask again. Do you still believe there's no footage? He looked at the judge. The footage hasn't been authenticated. It was emailed from the school's security firm directly to the prosecution. I replied, chain of custody's intact. I could feel the jury now watching him squirm. He ran, Whitaker mumbled, reaching. You mean when he was tackled? I said. When he screamed for help, when the officer twisted his arm for holding a library book. He dropped the transcript on the table like it burned. You're not fooling anyone, no, I said. But you are. His hand twitched toward his pen. I stepped closer. Just enough. You thought no one would question it. Thought no one would challenge your version. But I know what he did. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. Watch your tone, kid. I don't need to raise my voice, I said. Your panic is loud enough. He didn't answer. Not this time. The courthouse steps were colder than I expected. My palms still trembled from the hearing. I wasn't sure if it was adrenaline or rage. Probably both. Hey, I turned. Haley, the court intern, stood behind me. Her badge barely clipped to her coat. Her eyes held something raw. You're brave, she said. I'm just doing my job. She hesitated. This place, it eats people like us. Like us, I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She didn't flinch. Too young, too brown, too smart. I looked at her longer. Her lanyard shook slightly as she spoke, like her nerves were still buzzing. I'd like to admit this into evidence, I said, holding up the USB like it weighed more than it did. It kind of did. My fingers twitched around it. Whitaker didn't even look up. Irrelevant. The footage shows the moment the victim was tackled. His eyes finally met mine. Cold, smug. Alleged victim. He hissed. I swallowed the urge to respond with fists. My voice stayed even. With all due respect, Your Honor, the tape speaks for itself. The judge stared at me longer than necessary, then gave a curt nod to proceed. My hand didn't shake when I plugged it in, not visibly, but I could feel the tremble in my elbow, in the base of my spine. I hit play. Silence. Then the grainy timestamp filled the screen. 7:42 p.m. A black teen barely 16 walked between two library stacks. His hands were already up. No sound on the footage. But I remembered the audio from the internal report. He was saying I didn't do anything. Then out of nowhere an officer slammed into him from behind, knocking him face first into the floor. Gasps rippled through the gallery. One woman covered her mouth. I didn't blink. I couldn't afford to. Whitaker cleared his throat, loud. Your Honor, I warned the court about theatrics. My lips barely moved. It's not theater, it's truth. You don't get to define truth, boy. That word hit harder than the tackle, not because it was new, but because it was so expected. And still, it stung. I don't, I said, slow and clear. But cameras do. His jaw flexed, his cheeks reddened. That same ugly flush they get when control slips. This proves nothing. He spat. I leaned closer, quiet, just for him. It proves everything and you know it. He recoiled like I'd slapped him. The judge banged the gavel once. Control yourselves. Whitaker turned back to the bench. The tape doesn't show what happened before. It lacks context. Then maybe we should pull the security footage from the lobby, and the parking lot, and the officer's body cam, I said. He flinched again. You didn't think we'd get this far, I added. You counted on silence. The gallery was holding its breath. I could feel it, the air tighter, eyes fixed. This child, I said, turning back to the screen, walked into a public library. He didn't leave with a book. He left in handcuffs, bleeding. That's inflammatory, Whitaker started. It's accurate, I snapped. Facts are inflammatory when you're not used to seeing yourself as the villain. He froze. The judge shifted. Mr. Whitaker, let him finish. I paused for a second. Let the silence make the point. We can debate procedures, protocols, policies. But what we saw, that wasn't procedure. That was punishment. Whitaker's voice cracked when he spoke next. He resisted. I pointed at the screen. Does this look like resistance to you? His mouth opened, closed, nothing. I heard someone in the back whisper, Jesus. I looked at the judge. I have nothing further at this time. As I walked back to my table, I could still feel Whitaker's eyes on me, burning, but it didn't matter anymore. The camera had spoken, and it didn't blink. How long you been here? I asked. 6 months, she said. Long enough to know what they whisper when you're not around. A cough behind us, I turned. Security guard, same. One from last week, arms crossed like he owned the sidewalk. Courts for real lawyers, he grunted. I blinked. I passed the bar. Bet they let you cheat, he muttered. I laughed once, hard and flat. Yeah, that's the only way someone like me could have made it right. He didn't respond, just stared, like my presence was graffiti on his building. He walked away, slow, like I wasn't worth hurrying for. My chest tightened. I tried to breathe through it, but the pressure kept climbing. Flash, we'll let someone with more experience speak, Professor Langley said, ignoring my raised hand. The white kid behind Miss Seaman average was already talking. I lowered my hand. My skin burned like I'd asked for something criminal. Flash again. Coffee, black, 2 sugars. The man pointed without looking at me. I held the presentation slides in my hand. I was the guest speaker. No apology. Just a shrug when I corrected him. You okay? Haley asked. Yeah, I wasn't. She stepped closer, her voice lower. You shook Whitaker in there. He's not used to being challenged. Especially not by someone who looks like you. I looked away. I'm used to it. That's not the same as okay. I didn't answer. The silence sat between us. Heavy. Haley broke it. Make them say your name. I turned to her. What? Don't let them erase you. Make them say your name. Make them remember who argued this case. I stared at her. Her voice cracked on remember, like she'd said it before maybe, to herself in the mirror. I nodded once, not with shouting. She smiled, no, with facts. I felt it again, that quiet fire inside, not the anger, the resolve. Thanks. I said, don't thank me, just finish it. The door shut behind us. Silence, heavy, private. Judge Whitaker's chambers weren't big, but they felt colder without the bench between us. Just him and me. You once spoke at my middle school, I said. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing like he didn't believe it. Did I? You stood in front of the auditorium. Said law was power, that it could be wielded right. He laughed once, sharp and dry. Well, guess I inspired you. You did. His smirk faded. Then I regret it. Of course he did. You told me I could do anything, I said, but not this, huh? Not walk into your courtroom and demand justice. He glanced at the books lining the shelf behind me. Anything but my face. It's not personal, isn't it? I stepped closer. Because the minute I stopped being your bright kid from the inner city and became your equal, it got real personal. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. His hands curled into fists behind his back, still trying to stay composed, still clinging to robes and titles like they shielded him from being wrong. You said kids like me don't. Last I said. That's not, he started, but stopped himself. You misunderstood. No, I understood perfectly. You meant well. That's the thing, isn't it? You always mean well. Until someone like me refuses to play grateful. You're an anomaly, he muttered, almost to himself. I nodded. Slowly, no, I'm proof. He looked at me now. Really looked. Proof of what? That your time's up. His mouth tightened. His jaw clenched like he wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. You think you're special, he said finally. I didn't blink. No, I think I'm right. His silence stretched. I could see it then, his fear. Not of me, but of what I represented. A crack in his system. A shift in control. The same kid he once patronized, now standing across from him, eyes level, You don't belong here, he said to quiet. I know, I said, but I came anyway. Flash, I was 12, again sitting cross-legged in that same middle school auditorium, watching him talk about justice. I remember thinking, that man speaks like a king, and I want that crown. I even stayed behind after the assembly, shook his hand. He said, make them listen to you, son, even if they never want to. Now here we were. He didn't want to, but he was listening. You're not the hero you think you are, he said, voice stiff. I'm not trying to be. Oh, don't give me that. You walk into my courtroom, eyes blazing, tape in hand, thinking you're going to save the world. No, I said. I just want the world to see what it already ignored. He looked away. The system isn't broken, I added. It's operating exactly how you built it, and I'm here to make it crack. That's dangerous talk. For who? He didn't answer. I stepped toward the door. You're going to lose, he said. Maybe, I replied, but not today. He flinched, and when I win, added, turning the knob, I want you sitting there. I want you watching. I want you to remember every word you said to a 12-year-old black boy who believed in you. I didn't wait for his reply. I didn't need one because I'd already won the first round. I stepped to the center of the courtroom, hands still, voice steady barely. He didn't run. I began, eyes locked on the jury. He didn't fight, he didn't even speak. Whitaker's chair scraped hard against the floor. Objection. Sit down. The judge snapped, louder than he ever needed to be. Let him finish. For once, silence worked in my favor. My breath felt too loud, my heart louder. I turned back to the jury. You were taught to trust the system, I said, softer now. So was I. No one moved. Not even the bailiff, but the system only listens when the speaker looks right. A juror, middle-aged, white, maybe a She blinked. Her fingers gripped the armrest like she was suddenly cold. I pointed to the prosecutor. This lawyer mocked my voice. I turned toward the officer's table. That officer broke a boy's ribs. Then my hand moved to the defense table, my table. And this courtroom ignored him until I showed up. Silence again. Not just any silence. The kind that shifts things. I scanned the faces, jaw clenched, hands folded, eyes locked, some ashamed, some confused. But just a few looked like they saw me for the first time, not as an angry kid, not as a mouthy lawyer, but as someone worth hearing. I swallowed the lump forming at the back of my throat. You think I want to be standing here? I said. I wanted peace. I wanted to believe you when you said truth rises. I stepped closer to the jury box. But truth doesn't rise. It gets buried, under uniforms, under paperwork, under judges who tell boys like me to watch our tone. I could feel Whitaker fidgeting behind me. I didn't care. I was taught respect looked like obedience. Quiet, head down. Don't speak unless spoken to. My voice cracked, but I raised my chin. This is what respect looks like. It's not loud. It's not violent. It's me standing here telling the truth when no one else will. The room held its breath. He couldn't speak, I whispered. So I did. I didn't cry. I wanted to. My throat begged for it. My chest felt tight, like it wanted to split open. But I didn't. I looked straight at the jurors again. He was just a kid. I said, hands up, no weapon, no threat. Just a hoodie and skin too dark for comfort. The prosecutor flinched. Good. Don't let them make you forget that. Don't let them twist his silence into guilt. I exhaled hard, like I'd been holding something since the moment I stepped foot. In this courtroom, a man in the back nodded. Slowly, a black woman in the front wiped her cheek. Finally, someone was listening. I stepped back, not because I was finished, but because I'd said enough, and because the silence that followed felt like respect. The courtroom felt like it forgot how to breathe. I gripped the defense table. The clerk's voice sliced through the silence. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. Mrs. Vega gasped. My knees didn't give out, but they wanted to. Her hand found mine, trembling tight. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God. She didn't say thank you at first. She just cried. Deep cracked sobs like she hadn't let herself believe this day would come. Then she looked up at me. He believed you'd come. My throat locked. He watched your videos, she said, pressing her forehead to my shoulder. The ones where you shouted and no one listened. I held her, careful not to cry. Not here. Not yet. I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner. I murmured. No, she said. You came when it mattered. I nodded, but the guilt sat in my ribs anyway. The judge banged the gavel. Voices rose, then fell. My name echoed like a bell being rung too many times. Reporters waited outside like wolves in suits. I didn't rush. Mrs. Vega kissed her fingers and touched her heart. He would have hugged you too. I hope he knows. I stepped out into the flash of cameras. Jaden over here. What does this verdict mean for future cases? Do you think this sets a precedent? Was race a factor? I pushed through. The microphones meant nothing to me. Not right now. Then I saw him. Whitaker. No press around him. No cameras. Just his back straight, jaw tight, tie loose. I could have let him go. Let him disappear into whatever corner of irrelevance he had left. But I didn't. You okay? I asked. He stopped. Didn't turn around right away. Just stood there like the world got too loud for him. Then he looked at me. You ruined me, he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was hollow. I tilted my head. No, you did that yourself. He flinched. You think this changes anything? He muttered. It already did. You'll fade. He sneered. They'll forget your name. I stepped closer. They'll remember this, and so will you. He shook his head. You think you're righteous. I think I'm not afraid of you anymore. He laughed. It didn't sound real. You think you'll never be silenced again? No, I said. I think you'll never speak over someone like me again. He stared at me like he wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he walked off. No camera followed him, no mic waited. Just silence, and that was justice. I stood still as the reporters yelled my name. I didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't perform. I just breathed for the first time in years. It felt like air. I used to think being called different was a compliment. You speak so well. You carry yourself with such poise. You're not like the others. At 13, I smiled when teachers said that. At 16, I repeated it back in scholarship interviews. By 22, I hated the way it tasted in my mouth. Haley found me near the bottom of the courthouse steps, eyes scanning the marble like it might swallow me whole. They're still inside, she said, slipping next to me. I didn't answer right away. She waited then. You made them uncomfortable, she said. That's good. I chuckled, but it came out dry. They'll call it passion or anger. Depends who's writing the article. Either way, she shrugged. You made them look. I stared at my hands. Doesn't feel like enough. You got a kid acquitted. I turned toward her. I didn't do it to be their hero, Haley. I know I didn't do it to be the acceptable kind of angry. She touched my shoulder. Then why? Before I could answer, Mrs. Vega approached her, step slow, hands clasped like she was still praying even after the verdict. I didn't get to thank you earlier, she said softly. You don't have to. I do, she insisted. You saved my son. I hesitated. I stood where I was supposed to stand. The system just finally listened. She shook her head. No, you made them listen. That didn't sit easy with me. I wasn't proud of how many cameras it took for them to care. I remembered a dean once telling me I was polished, like the rest of us were raw wood, and I was finally sanded down to something presentable. I didn't do it to be special, I said. Mrs. Vega tilted her head. To be what then? I looked up at the courthouse behind us, the pillars, the flags, the walls that never heard my voice until I shouted it, to make sure the next kid doesn't have to prove himself just to be believed. She stared at me, like she'd never seen a man say something that broke his own heart. Haley stepped back, giving me space I didn't know I needed. I used to think if I was exceptional enough, they'd accept me, I admitted. Mrs. Vega's eyes shimmered. But I'm not their exception, I said. I'm their reminder of what she asked. I looked past her, past the crowds, past the history etched into the stone that we've always been worth listening to. She pressed a hand to her chest. Then you weren't just speaking for my son. No, ma'am, I said. I was speaking for all the sons they silenced. Every praise they gave me was a coded insult to someone who looked like me but didn't code switch fast enough. You're articulate. You're impressive. You're not like them. They meant it as flattery. I carried it like a bruise as I walked down the steps. My shoes hit each marble edge like punctuation. Not a hero, not an anomaly, not your safe black man. Just me. Loud, tired, still standing, still reminding them that my voice doesn't need permission to matter.